In this episode, Papa Swolio's got his coffee, and we're going to talk about damaging foods that make you poop. Okay, everyone poops, and you're going to poop with everything, but we're going to talk about foods that really, really make you go duty.
The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
Testicles. Welcome everyone to episode 622 of the Daily Mother Swole, the most muscular swolecast, beardcast, broadcast, gaincast, mancast, pumpcast, and jackcast in the realm. Because when I flex, you flex, we all flex our biceps, and wouldn't you know it, Papa Swolio is here, and it's 12 noon Eastern time. So welcome to episode 622. We're going to talk about damaging foods. We're going to talk about foods that make you go poop. They make you duty in your pants because they are so bad for you, you just can't even clench your butt cheeks to prevent their escape. No, everyone poops and everything makes you poop. But we're going to talk about the damaging foods that we did not talk about yesterday because I took the poll and everyone was split down the middle. We discussed it, and we're going to talk about that today. Got a lot of great shows and have another amazing one tomorrow that I'll kind of tell you a little bit more about at the end of this episode. So welcome. Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to 622, live on Facebook and live on Instagram at Swolenormous. And those of you that are listening to the podcast, remember that every single episode is available on SoundCloud and iTunes as a podcast. So just type in Daily Swole, type in Swolenormous, and you will find Papa Swolio and all the other 621 episodes. So welcome. Let's say hi to the family. We're here. Let's see what we got here. Andy McPherson, what up? Moyen, Brandon, Justin, Eric, Josh, what up from Kansas? What up? First time watching live? Yeah, welcome, Eric King. So if it's your first time, if you're a virgin, if you're a swole virgin, make sure you say what up. Make sure you say it's your first time. Give a little shout out, say first time if it is your first time, because we do have some new people coming to the community all the time. So if it is your first time, welcome to the show. Everything goes. If you have little children running around, you might want to give them the old earmuffs because Papa Swolio says whatever the fuck comes to his mind. And we're going to talk about foods today, inflammatory foods. And that's been kind of the theme for a little while, especially in Swolenormous X, which I also have a brand new workshop coming this evening in Swolenormous X. But we talked about it a few days ago or last week. We talked about inflammatory foods and foods that you should be avoiding. And this goes back to my saying and my mantra when it comes to nutrition is if you eat the right shit, you don't have to count shit. And one of the major problems with nutrition and with these diet plans and all this bullshit that floats around the fitness industry is that you think that there is some kind of like altruistic calculator that will automatically tell you how much you should be eating or how little you should be eating. And just eating by the numbers, looking for calories, counting calories, doing macro ratios, the reason why a lot of you struggle and see absolutely no fucking results with that is because it's bullshit. It's bullshit in so many ways. You are not born with a calculator in your stomach. You are not born with a calculator in your hand. You are not. You as a human being, you are not designed. You are not supposed to. You are not required to count calories to give yourself, to tell you how much you should be eating. There's no reason why you should ever, 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 ever count calories. Ever. There's no need why you should ever count calories. Now, if you're a professional bodybuilder or you have like some specific reason why you need to nitpick and track and get as lean, then there's always that next level. There's always that next level where you might need a little bit more detail or you want to really hone things in. But I'm talking about for health. I'm talking about for seeing results. I'm talking about for losing weight and losing significant extra body fat. I'm talking about building muscle. You don't need to count. What you need to do is reset your body's messaging system, your hormones. You need to reset your body's ability to determine whether it's full or whether it's hungry. And when you eat chemically induced foods, when you eat processed foods, when you eat inflammatory foods, your body loses that ability to determine when it's hungry and full because pretty much the system gets fucked up. You get inflamed, your body can't send the right signals, and you store extra fat because there's imbalances. So I'm going to talk about a few foods today that will help you maybe narrow this down. And my approach with nutrition, my approach with diet is that there is not one right way for anyone. You have to determine this for yourself. So it does take some work. It does take some work. It's very simple. My approach to nutrition is very simple. So float some hearts if you've done the elimination diet, float some hearts if you have figured out what's bad for you. And I actually want to hear this because a lot of people here in the community have done the elimination diet, have cut out inflammatory foods. Drop in the comments below right now if you're watching live on Instagram or Facebook. Drop some comments below what foods that you have eliminated that cause you problems and what you're noticing. Because they're members of Swolenormous X, and I've been having these phone calls, the orientation phone calls with new members that have done the elimination diet, they're 1 week in. 1 week in from eliminating a specific list of foods, and they're already feeling less pain, less fatigue, and they're feeling better already after just a few days. So this is the impact that these foods can have on your body. And what I mean by inflammation, I have to really define that, because when I say inflammation, I do not mean that you're going to have bruising, that you're going to look like you're going to go bleed from your fucking eyeballs. What inflammation means is inflammation on a cellular level. So in your intestines, you might have heard the term leaky gut. You might have heard that term before. And that just means that when you are causing damage to the body, when the body is fighting invaders, essentially, what's going to result is inflammation in the cells and, swelling, let's say, I guess puffiness. We can picture that as puffiness. And what happens with the cell walls and the cell membranes in the intestines is that there's gaps that form, thus the term leaky gut. So that inflammation in the gut actually separates the lining of the intestines, and then larger particles get through and your body doesn't know what to do with them. You have foreign invaders. So your body actually releases and launches an inflammatory reaction. So your body actually starts attacking some of the foods that you're used to eating. And these could be foods that you love, that are good for you because their large particles get through, and you can actually cause allergic reactions and cause intolerances to foods that you've always known and loved, which is not good. And you'll also have the foods and the particles that get through that are damaging, that are toxic, because some of these foods that you're eating have toxic properties that you should not be consuming. And when they bind to the cell walls in the intestines, they cause this inflammatory reaction. They cause this irritation. They cause a sequence of actions and of, on a cellular level. It's complicated. So there's no need for me to really discuss all the details in this episode, but it causes a chain reaction that separates the lining of the intestines. And when your body is fighting a war, when your body is fighting a battle. Okay, I want this to sink in. I want this to sink in. When your body thinks it's under duress, and it doesn't matter if there's a virus or it's grains, when your body is fighting an invader, when your body is fighting an enemy, it is going to do a couple things. It is going to retain water. It is going to store fat. And the reason for that is because it's at war. Same thing with countries. When countries go to war, they gather up supplies, right? They put things away. They save it for later. They get the troops ready. So what your body is doing is getting at readiness. It's going DEFCON 2. It's getting ready for battle. So your body is storing fat. Your body is retaining water to deal with the inflammation. So it throws off the balance in your body. And a lot of these allergies and a lot of these allergic reactions, a lot of these intolerances, you don't notice. They get masked. Your body is designed to adapt, and you don't notice all of these little intolerances and allergies, which compound over years and decades, causing arthritis, causing autoimmune diseases, chronic migraines, joint pain, all these things that you take for, I would say, for granted, or that you attribute to, oh, I'm old, I'm getting old. Yep, getting old. I got joints, my knees swelling. It's gonna rain. It's gonna rain. Yeah, yeah. Not realizing it's because you fucking eat bread every day and you drink processed garbage sugar milk. So there are certain foods that causes inflammation very commonly, and you're not going to know all of them. I'm not going to tell you all of them today, and you're not going to know all of them even if I go through the list, because you watching, listening, you are going to have your own individual levels of intolerance, and you're not going to know until you eliminate these foods over a longer period of time from your diet in order to test their sensitivity or your sensitivity when you reintroduce them. That's called the elimination diet. And that's the proper approach. And that is why I don't do diet plans. That's why I don't say, oh, eat this, eat half a cup of this, cut this down, because for some people it'll work and some people it can cause inflammation and problems. And I am not here to do what other people do. I am not here to push diet plans down people's throats, and I'm not here to lie to anyone. You need to put in the effort and the work to figure out what's right for you. And here's the great thing is, once you figure out what's right for you, let's say you figure out, just for example, you find out foods A, B, and C. Let's say those foods are the best for you to eat. You love that. You don't have any inflammation. You're losing weight. You feel good. All you do is you go on Google and you type in recipe with A, B, and C, and you will get a million responses. You don't need, like, everyone has to be, oh, I need recipes. Fucking Google. Spend 10 minutes on the fucking search engine, on the interwebs. It will tell you what recipes. There are entire massive websites. Like, there's no point in me giving you recipes because they're already there and they're easily accessible. So what's really important is you determining and me helping you determine what foods are best for you. And then it's just a matter of typing in a Google search and getting a million results instantly. And then you just try those and see which ones you like and which ones are easy to make. There are websites that tell you how long the prep time is and how easy it is to make it and blah, blah, blah. So that's it. That's it. It just takes some fucking effort. That's it. It takes some fucking effort on your part. It takes some effort on your part. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to go through this process, then you don't really care. And that's where I come into. If you're not willing to go through and eliminate and systematically test and determine what is right for you, you don't really care. If you just want a handout, you just want, oh, here, give me a diet plan, then you're in the wrong place. You don't really care. You don't really care about losing weight. You're not really frustrated and you're not really struggling with losing weight. Because if you're not going to put in this effort, that's it. That's it. Like, you're gonna just randomly follow blind and just follow along with what some random person on the internet, you go buy and, oh, let me get a diet plan. You pay $50 and they send you a PDF. You're just gonna follow that. You think that's right for you? You think those diet plans are really custom? They tweak a couple calories and they swap out white rice for brown rice, which are both fucking bad, and then say, yeah, eat this. So let's get into a couple of the major inflammatory foods. So what I want to do is just go over some of the obvious ones that you all know. So how about this? Why don't you down below start typing out some foods that you think are inflammatory? Let's see what you think are inflammatory foods. So right now I'm just going to segue into it. We're going to talk about the junk food and stuff that's inflammatory. So comment below right now what foods are inflammatory for you. And first off, we're going to get rid of, we're going to just throw in the fucking trash, processed foods, processed sugar. We're going to get rid of bread and grains, gluten, wheat germ, agglutinin, all those processed grains. The 12-grain bread, that's pretty much spray painted white bread. That's crap. It's literally shit. It's literally shit that looks like a square. So that's crap. The grains, the sodas, fruit juices are crap. They're sugar. Out of season fruits, nature's candy, should not be consumed out of season because it's out of season for a reason. I'll explain why. So dairy is out, especially Western American dairy, A1 casein protein dairy is out. And there are some other ones that are going to hurt people's feelings, like peanut butter. Peanut butter is not a nut, it's a legume, which can be highly inflammatory and very high in omega 6s and processed. So I don't care if it's natural, this peanut butter, it should be removed in this process for sure. Things like cashews, also a lot of these artificial sweeteners should be removed too. Maltodextrin, Splenda, and all those types of sugars, crackers, cereals. That I put with like the bread and the grains, the cereals and all that stuff. Sour Patch Kids, I know. Sour Patch Kids. Beans, yeah, beans are out. Beans are legumes, and they can be highly, highly inflammatory. So let's talk about why some of those foods that seem kind of healthy, why, for example, beans. Everyone loves to go for beans. Why? Because they're cheap. Because they're cheap. Why are some of these plants, why are some of these vegetables? Now, this is not the whole list. This is not everything, because and I want to make it clear that this does not mean that every single one of you is going to be massively allergic and have massive tolerances to every single one of these. Dairy is a big one. Grains are a big one. Sugar and processed foods and candy and soda and fruit juice, those are big ones. But things like nightshades, like tomatoes or cucumbers and the seeds and stuff like that, that gets a little bit more specific. That's where the testing comes into play. So I'm not demonizing any of these foods. There's just a time and a place, and there's a method of cooking and preparing some of these foods. So, for example, some people have allergic reactions to issues with the skin of tomatoes and the seeds of tomatoes. So, what do? You take the skin off and you take the seeds out, and then you can enjoy your tomatoes. But what about beans? Beans, when you pressure cook them, it damages the protein lectin that can cause inflammation. So, if you pressure cook your beans, that should make them okay for you. So there are methods of preparing some of these foods that can eliminate the issue associated with them. The problem is what has been taught to us and what has been exposed to us over the course of decades and years and years. Like, remember, for years, even growing up in 80s, 90s, fat was demonized. Everything was low fat, low fat, low fat, even though fat's not bad for you. The wrong fat is bad for you, but fat is not the enemy. Fat is natural. There are tribes that live only off fat. They live longer than anyone else in the freaking world, just on coconuts and sweet potatoes. So what humans want to push, what the government wants to regulate, whoever has the money, whoever is fingering who under the table in the government and in the pharmaceutical companies, I mean, that's really what determines what gets the headlines. I mean, think about marketing. And I want to put this into perspective because I'm going to read some of the comments now if you have any questions and some of the foods that you've been listing for inflammation. And then we're going to get into some of that because I could go on for a list all day long, but there's going to be more, obviously more content. There's more stuff. And this is the kind of stuff that we do a lot of these workshops on in Swolenormous X. But when you think of marketing, okay, and how much marketing plays a role in your diet and in what is promoted to you, I want you to think about the Got Milk campaign. The milk does a body good, right? With like the milk on the lips and on the top lip, and I think they probably even still do it. That Got Milk campaign is probably one of the most successful campaigns of all time, like in history. That's a kind of marketing campaign that is taught at universities. It is probably hands down the most successful, the most universally successful marketing campaign in history. If not, it's got to be like top 5, top 10. Now, what does that tell us? Got Milk. It does the body good. Right? It's good for bones. It's not. It's not good for the body. It's not good for bones. Your body doesn't process the calcium the way you think it would. You don't just eat something and it goes, and it just goes to bone. There's certain types of calcium. There's certain ways the body has to process calcium, has to absorb calcium. And milk is actually an extremely poor source of that. And it does not do the body good at all. Milk has been shown to cause asthma in children. Milk is terrible. If you're feeding milk to your kids, you should stop immediately. There's a reason why human beings nurse and we drink our own mother's milk for several months and then we stop. Why? Because we've gotten the antibodies from the mother, we've gotten the fat from the mother, and milk is very, very low in protein, the mother's milk. It's very, very small amount of protein. You don't need that much protein to grow. Everyone thinks they need to fucking eat 2 grams per pound of body weight. You don't. Oh, but I only want breast milk. I want to drink breast milk. Breast milk is very, very, very low in protein. It's mostly fats and carb, and it's antibodies, and you're getting the nutrients and the health benefits from your mom, which is why it's important to breastfeed and not feed your kids formula. It's very important to breastfeed. But once you're done with that, you move on to food. You move on to food, you move on to more nutrients, you move on to more calories, you're able to eat. There's a reason why we don't have breast milk our entire lives. Yet, right when we get off our mother's milk, we go and we get the milk from another animal. We're getting milk from cows, and then we're heating it, we're pasteurizing it, we're adding sugar to it, and we're packaging it, we're drinking the milk from another creature. Not to mention the casein protein in milk, especially in the milk we're getting here in the Western Hemisphere, is highly inflammatory, the A1 casein protein. So when you do an elimination diet, and I'll finish with this before we do some questions because dairy is a big one. You should be eliminating dairy completely. No yogurt, no Greek. What about Greek yogurt? No yogurt, no fucking dairy. It's the same. No dairy, no cheese, no milk. You're not having cereal anyway, so you don't need fucking milk. You don't need milk. You don't need milk in your oatmeal because you're not eating oatmeal. All these things are causing you problems. Now, when you're eating these foods, are you like, oh my God, blowing up in your stomach and you're rolling on the ground? Oh my God, well, I feel fine when I eat oatmeal. Don't worry, I had oatmeal for years too. But I feel so much better. And it's the things that you don't realize that you're dealing with once you eliminate. You don't realize that you sleep better. You don't realize that you have less joint pain. You don't realize that you have more energy. When I talk about inflammation and allergic reactions and intolerances, when you are having these foods that are bad for you, that's what's making you crash in the afternoon. That's what's making you sluggish. That's what's making you groggy. That's what's making you sleep poorly at night. That's what's making you get migraines. That's where your chronic knee pain and inflammation and your neck and your elbow is aching from. You're getting all these reactions from the food that you're eating. And a lot of times these reactions might come 1 or 2 days after, so it's not instant. Once you digest and process it, it gets into your intestines and starts causing damage, then you start feeling it. So it's not like you ate oatmeal and all of a sudden you broke out in hives. These are subtle things that you're dealing with on a regular basis that are being caused by the foods that you're eating every day. So it's very important that you understand the gravity of this. I am telling you this because there is an answer for you. You just have to put in the effort to start eliminating these foods and go through the systematic process of testing which food. And there's a very specific way to do that. And we can talk about that in another episode, but that's the kind of stuff, that's the approach that I take. That's the approach that I take. That's the approach that we take in Swolenormous X. When you join my private community, we eliminate everything. You go through it a certain way and you start adding foods in one at a time after several weeks so you can really, really test. And once you find out what foods are best for you, then you just look up recipes for those foods and done. And done. And it's a practice. And I want to finish with this because I know it's a long episode. So I know some of you it's a good one. That's why we're here. And it's important that I cover all this right now. That nutrition's a practice. Nutrition's a practice. It's something that you do and that you learn and you fail and you try something else. There is no, what's a good diet plan? What should I be eating? What? It doesn't even make sense. Why don't you fucking put the effort in and figure it out? And then you practice. And as you get older, you'll be tolerant to different foods. You might have to adjust or you might have to learn. And that's life. That's called the journey. That's called doing it one step at a time. That's called the process. And you have to love that. You have to enjoy that. You have to respect that, that you are going to change you are going to fail. And when you accept the fact that when you do these things, you're not going to be perfect, you're going to have to work on it, then you're really going to start seeing progress because you stop stressing about having an answer. There is no answer. There's just testing, retesting, and experimenting. And you have to enjoy that part of it. And then you will see results. And then guess what? Once you start working on the right things and thinking about everything on a different scale, then you start losing that extra weight. You'll flush out extra water because you're not inflamed anymore. You'll start losing body fat because your cortisol levels drop because your body's not stressed as much. So you lose fat around your arms, you lose fat around your stomach, you lose fat around your chest. You lose fat, I mean, for guys, you lose fat around your hips. You lose fat in those areas that you're storing it because your body is no longer at war with itself. And that's really important to understand. Let's take some questions. Great episode, I think. That was excellent. Let's see. Charlie Dahl, need to know how you eat. That's exactly the opposite of what you need. And that's the thing. A lot of people are like, oh, what do you eat? It's not about what I eat. That's why I don't talk about a lot what I eat. You need to figure out what you should be eating. So I'll discuss some of the things, but you need to figure out what you should be eating. What about red meat, chicken? Are they inflammatory? You could have, and when you're eating meats, you have to be eating grass. If you choose to eat meat, it has to be grass-fed, not grain-fed. Chicken is generally low quality. Chicken is extremely overrated. It's cheap and the chickens are very, very poisoned and with antibiotics, and chicken is a very low quality meat anyway. So grass-fed beef, and the reason why you want to, that you would err to grass-fed meats is because of omega-3s, wild fish, and pastured eggs, not pasteurized, not just organic, pastured eggs. So not organic beef, you need grass-fed, 100% grass-fed beef. So if you're going to eat meat, and that's a whole other discussion of whether we should be eating meat or not. I don't think human beings should be eating as much meat as they do. We just have access to it, but I don't think it's like, plant-based is like the answer and everyone has to be. I think that's just too extreme. Humans are designed to digest meat. We're just not designed to hunt and kill meat every day because that's not like how we evolved. So our food has changed so drastically in comparison to, the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So our own body evolution has not caught up to the sudden change in how easily accessible food is. And that's another major issue, is that the evolution and the scale of how everyone has adapted is not lined up properly. So the food has changed far quicker than our body has had time to evolve, which takes hundreds of thousands and millions of years. Good to know. What's your thoughts on the carnivore diet from the Joe Rogan podcast? I don't know anything about it. Let's see. I don't know what Joe Rogan said about meat. Grain-fed meats, noodles, bread. These are all everyone listing their inflammatory foods. Let's see. Peanuts. Yes, peanuts should be eliminated. Everyone just hooks onto peanut butter, but do almond butter instead. Avoid peanut butter. Oatmeal, sour cream. Usually high-fat dairy has little to no casein in it, but dairy should be eliminated when you're testing at the beginning. You should eliminate all dairy. Pasta's out. Get rid of pasta. Corn is evil. Get rid of corn. You can find anything on the internet, and I mean anything. You could absolutely find anything on the internet. I love the bun, Papa. Yeah, there we go. Loving the bun. Sugar is a duh. Dairy, wheat processed, some vegetables, avoid dairy. Yeah, so you guys get the idea. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. But when you're doing an elimination, you're trying to get rid of anything that could possibly be inflammatory, because then you systematically bring things back into your system, into your body, and then you see how your body reacts. Because once you clear it out, your antibodies break down, your defenses break down, and then you're able to see the reactions as they really are, not as your body's been protecting itself for decades. So stay tuned for more episodes on this, and those of you that are looking for additional workshops and step-by-step approaches, not to mention all my programs, you could always go to swolenormousx.com. That's where we do all the weekly workshops. And there's another nutrition workshop tonight in Swolenormous X that will launch this evening. So those of you that are X members, you can expect that. And I hope everyone enjoyed the latest virtual training. So any members that are watching, If you caught the latest Swolenormous X virtual training, the shoulder workout, make sure you comment below that workout and let me know what you thought. It was a killer in my book, so I hope you enjoyed it as well. And everyone else watching on Facebook, on Instagram, remember you can catch all the episodes in HD later on in the day on Facebook and on YouTube, and listen to the podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes. So catch up, watch the other episodes. Watch them, listen to them, catch the podcast, and listen to all the other episodes, 621 of them for you. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope we made up for everyone that was disappointed that we didn't talk about this yesterday. But the good thing about the Daily Swole is that we're here every fucking day. Every damn day. And I need some coffee because my mouth is parched talking about all that inflammatory food. So thank you for joining. If you learned something today, here's what we can do right now, and I'll check in the comments later. What you learned today, if you learned something new, if you learned a new food that you should be avoiding, or if you learned a new concept, please drop it below right now and let me know what you thought about this episode. And I will see everyone tomorrow for episode 623 of the Daily Mother Swole, the most muscular swolecast, beardcast, and nipplecast in the realm, because when I flex, you flex, we all flex our biceps. Peace, McGee's fam. Deuce, Magoose. Papa Swolio. Out.